Stop everything you're doing right now. What you are about here will either transform your life forever or leave you haunted, wondering what could have happened if you had truly listened. This is not another speech about struggle and hope. This is a blueprint for liberation, a message forged in the fire of battle, delivered by a man who has stared empire in the face and refused to bow. My name is Ibrahim Traore, speaking to you from the heart of Burkina Faso. But understand this, my voice carries far beyond these borders. My words bear the weight of an awakening continent, a continent that refuses to die quietly, a continent that refuses to forget who it truly is. I have seen governments collapse. I have seen how oppression is manufactured, polished, and exported like a product. I have watched ordinary men and women, people written off as powerless, rise and become unstoppable forces of change. And today, I speak to you, my brothers and sisters in Black America. Let me ask you one question, and let it haunt you. What if I told you that everything you've been taught about your history, your limitations, and your place in this world was never truth, but deliberate design? A construction meant to keep you kneeling while others feast on the fruits of your genius? I do not speak to you as a distant observer. I speak to you as family. I recognize the fire in your eyes, the same fire I see in every African who finally says, enough. It is the same fire that burns in me, the same fire that refuses to be smothered by centuries of humiliation. You may wonder what gives me the authority to speak with such boldness. Let me tell you, I have seen their meetings, their boardrooms, their secret plans. I have watched how they treat entire populations like pawns on a chessboard. I have seen them ignite wars, strangle economies, and topple leaders, all while smiling in front of cameras and preaching democracy. But more importantly, I have seen something else, something they fear, more than nuclear weapons or financial sanctions. I have seen what happens when people who were told they are nothing suddenly remember they are everything. Your pain and ours wear different costumes. Police brutality in your cities, economic colonization in our villages, educational apartheid in your schools, resource theft in our lands. But make no mistake, all of it flows from the same poison source. This system, this global machine of oppression, was designed not just to break our bodies, but to erase our memory, to sever the bond between Africans in the motherland and Africans in the diaspora. And yet here we are, unbroken, unbowed, still creating, still resisting, still breathing. That persistence terrifies them more than anything else. Now hear me clearly. The greatest weapon they ever used against us was not the whip, not the gun, not even the endless poverty traps they call economic policies. No. The greatest weapon was division, convincing us that we are separate, unconnected, and powerless without their approval. I come to you with no arrogance, no condescension, only raw truth spoken in love. I have studied their strategies. I have seen how they exploit, manipulate, and divide. They perfected the art of teaching the oppressed to love their chains, to beg for crumbs at the tables we built with our own hands. But I am here to shatter that illusion. You are not beggars. You never were. You are the children of builders whose architectural marvels still stand while their empires crumble. You are the descendants of warriors whose strategies reshaped entire continents. You are thinkers and philosophers whose ideas shaped civilizations long before Europe discovered literacy. You are inventors, scientists, doctors, mathematicians whose genius they looted, renamed, and claimed as their own. You are the people who gave birth to civilization itself, when others were still learning to make fire. Your history is not just a chapter in the world's story. It is the foundation upon which the world stands. We have watched you march in Birmingham with such dignity that it shook segregation to its core. We saw you boycott buses in Montgomery, turning a simple act of resistance into an economic earthquake that brought a system to its knees. We heard your voices rise from Selma to Ferguson, from Watts to Baltimore, each cry echoing across oceans and inspiring movements from Soweto to Sao Paulo, from London to Lagos. When they denied you education, you built universities. When they locked you out of their businesses, you created your own. When they barred you from worship, you built churches of your own. When they tried to scatter you to the winds, you formed communities stronger than steel. You are not broken people. You are an unbreakable people. You literally built nations from nothing, took scraps, and created empires of culture that now influence every corner of the globe. They gave you pain, and you transformed it into jazz that moves souls across all racial lines. They gave you limitation, and you created blues that speak to universal human experience. They gave you exclusion, and you built hip-hop that became the most influential cultural force of the modern era. They gave you broken communities, and you created movements that changed laws, shifted consciousness, and inspired oppressed people worldwide to stand up and demand their dignity. But here's what they desperately hope you never figure out. The fight is not over. In fact, it has evolved into something far more subtle and dangerous than anything your ancestors faced. The enemy has simply learned new tactics and developed more sophisticated weapons. Where they once used physical chains, they now use psychological programming. Where they once relied on legal segregation, they now employ economic policies that achieve the same results. Where they once burned crosses to terrorize you, they now program algorithms to limit your opportunities and amplify negative stereotypes about your communities. They have mastered the art of oppression through deception, so subtle you don't recognize it as oppression. They create distractions so entertaining, you forget what you should be focused on. They manufacture confusion so complete, you begin to question your own lived experiences and inherited wisdom. And here's the key to understanding everything that happens in global politics, economics, and social policy. They fear unity among people who know their true worth more than they fear any army, any nuclear weapon, or any natural disaster. They have contingency plans for economic collapse, for climate change, for pandemics, and for wars between nations. But they have no effective defense against the unity of conscious people who understand their collective power and decide to use it strategically. They fear specifically when black voices in America connect with their family in Africa. They panic when you link hands with your relatives in Jamaica, in Brazil, in London, in Paris. They deploy massive resources to prevent you from looking past the artificial borders they drew on maps and seeing the truth that we are one people, scattered by historical forces, but never truly lost to each other. Divided, we are manageable. Separate, we can be controlled, manipulated, played against each other. But united, truly united in purpose and action, we become a storm that no force on earth can withstand or redirect. Now listen carefully, because this next truth will fundamentally alter how you see yourself. You are not just Americans who happen to have dark skin. That limiting identity serves their purposes because it keeps you isolated. It makes you think your struggle is purely domestic and convinces you that you're alone in this fight against systems designed to exploit you. You are sons and daughters of a stolen continent, carriers of bloodlines that connect you to the most advanced civilizations in human history. That blood flowing through your veins right now carries the genetic memory of kingdoms that ruled when Europe was emerging from what they accurately call the Dark Ages. That spirit residing in your chest is literally unbreakable because it has survived and thrived through experiences that would have destroyed any other people in human history. Never, and I cannot emphasize this strongly enough, never allow anyone to reduce you to statistics on their research reports, to stereotypes in their media representations, to silence in their decision-making processes. You were not born to merely survive the systems they created to limit you. Survival was never the ultimate goal. You were born to lead transformations, to build institutions that reflect your values, to reclaim not only what was taken from you personally, but what was stolen from your children and all the generations yet to come. The time has arrived. Not next year, not after another election, not when conditions improve. The time is now to remember who you truly are, not the sanitized versions they taught in schools designed for compliance, not the limited history written by outsiders, but what your ancestors whispered on slave ships, what your grandparents preserved in songs, stories, and sayings, what your heart has always known despite centuries of psychological warfare. We in Africa, yes, your Africa, are not waiting to be rescued. That lie of a helpless continent dependent on charity was crafted to justify theft while making thieves feel virtuous. We are rising economically, technologically, politically, and culturally, but we do not intend to walk this road alone. Our struggle and yours are not separate. They are the same fight against the same global system, and that fight can only be won through coordinated action. This is not charity, not pity, not aid with strings. It is unity, rooted in shared blood, shared history, and shared destiny. We call you not as allies in abstraction, but as family reclaiming inheritance. There is land here, fertile and waiting. There is work here, meaningful and wealth building. There is a future here, where your children need not beg for dignity, where their names, hair, and skin are sources of pride, not rejection. Most of all, there is healing here. Deep generational healing from wounds carved into DNA. Come not as tourists or saviors. Come as builders planting forests for your great-grandchildren, as family bringing skills, resources, and vision for collective liberation. Think beyond passports and borders. Think in terms of legacy. What will you leave for those yet unborn? A world where their intelligence is assumed, their beauty celebrated, their potential limitless. The empire that has ruled for centuries is cracking. Old alliances crumble. Economic systems once thought permanent are proving fragile. In this transition, those who know their history and their power must lead. We will not beg for seats at tables that reject us. We will not seek validation from those who profit from our doubt. We will build our own systems of justice, education, and economic strength. The time is now. The call is urgent. The question is simple. Will you answer? Understand this. Across continents, our oppression has always been one coordinated system. From Georgia's cotton fields to Sierra Leone's diamond mines, from South Africa's gold shafts to Chicago's streets, our labor built their wealth while denying us our share. Police brutality, debt slavery, resource theft, educational apartheid, these are not isolated issues but interconnected strategies of the same machine. Slavery was never just about labor. It was about destroying identity, severing roots, making resistance unthinkable. Colonialism was never just about resources. It was about dependency, so deep it survived independence. Segregation was never just about separation. It was about embedding inferiority across generations. Today, their global finance, their media stereotypes, their political manipulations all serve the same purpose: to erase our history, distort our value, and convince us our power is an illusion. They need us to see ourselves through their lens, to measure worth by their standards, to dream only dreams they approve. But we are more than their definitions. We are heirs of civilizations, builders of nations, and authors of futures. The time is now. The bridge is waiting. Will you cross it? Yet. Despite 4 centuries of the most sophisticated, well-funded, technologically advanced oppression in human history, despite every resource of every empire being deployed to break our spirits and erase our identity, we are still here. We are still creating. We are still rising. We are still refusing to accept their version of what we can become. That survival, that stubborn, magnificent refusal to disappear, is itself a form of victory they never acknowledged and never celebrated. Because acknowledging it would mean admitting that their entire system failed to achieve its ultimate goal. Our ancestors endured the horror of the Middle Passage and still found ways to preserve cultural elements that connect us to our origins today. They survived the brutality of plantation slavery and still created languages, music, stories, and spiritual practices that sustained community across generations. They endured the psychological warfare of Jim Crow and still built institutions, universities, businesses, churches, and organizations that educated generations and created foundations for future progress. They survived the economic violence of urban disinvestment, the educational violence of underfunded schools, the medical violence of experimentation and neglect, and the legal violence of mass incarceration designed to recreate slavery by other means. And they didn't just survive, they created. They transformed suffering into art so beautiful it moves people across all cultural and racial lines. They converted struggle into intellectual frameworks that influence liberation movements worldwide. They turned poverty into innovation, limitation into creativity, and exclusion into excellence that could not be ignored or denied. Most importantly, they found each other across impossible distances, creating networks of mutual support that transcended the artificial boundaries colonizers drew on maps to divide us. That is the power they could never take away. No matter how much violence they used, no matter how sophisticated their methods became, no matter how much money they spent on programs designed to convince us we were powerless, it's the power that flows through your bloodstream right now as you hear these words. It's the power that connects you instantly and intimately to people you've never met who share your experiences across continents and cultures. There is a connection so deep it transcends spoken language. Between a black child born in Detroit and one born in Dar. Between a young woman organizing for justice in Atlanta and one fighting for dignity in Accra. Between a teacher struggling with underfunded schools in Chicago and a farmer fighting for land rights in Burkina Faso. Between an entrepreneur building businesses in Brooklyn and an innovator creating solutions in Nairobi. Even when we speak different languages, practice different religions, salute different flags, our stories are intertwined like DNA strands. We carry the same genetic memory of resistance. We share the same inherited wisdom about survival and thriving under impossible circumstances. We possess the same creative genius that transforms obstacles into opportunities. We are descendants of people who looked at systems designed to destroy them and said, no, we will not be broken. We will not disappear. We will not accept your definition of what we can become. That refusal, that magnificent, stubborn, unbreakable refusal is coded in our DNA, and it activates whenever we truly connect with each other across the artificial divisions they created to keep us weak. But here's what I need you to understand about this moment in history. Resilience alone is no longer sufficient. Survival, while necessary, cannot be our ultimate goal. We cannot spend another generation simply enduring systems designed to limit us, hoping that if we work hard enough and prove ourselves worthy enough, they will eventually accept us as fully human. We must build. We must create new systems that serve our interests rather than exploit them. We must rise with complete awareness of who we are, where we come from, and what we are capable of achieving when we work together with shared purpose. Our strength is not just emotional or spiritual. Though those dimensions are crucial, our strength is intellectual. We have produced brilliance in every field of human knowledge. Our strength is cultural. Our art shapes global consciousness. Our strength is economic. Together we command trillions in resources and spending power. Our strength is political. We have the numbers and organization to shape policy. But above all, our strength is collective. When we act as one, across nationality, class, and ideology, we achieve what seemed impossible in isolation. The lies that divided us have served their purpose long enough. Africa is not separate from Black America. The Caribbean is not disconnected. Black Europeans are not facing a different struggle. We are one people, scattered by violence, but bound by destiny. Our enemies know this. That's why they invest so heavily in keeping us apart, convincing us our differences matter more than our unity. But the truth is clear. Our shared struggle is the foundation for the most powerful unity movement in human history. Their systems were global, coordinated, and relentless. Our response must be the same. We are not scattered seeds. We are roots of one magnificent tree. The deeper we connect, the stronger our branches, the more abundant our fruit, the greater the shade for generations to come. And let me be clear, we are not here to beg for seats at tables built to exclude us. We are not here to wait for approval from those who profit from our self-doubt. That era is over. We have been victimized, yes, but we are not victims. We are defined by our refusal to be broken, by the beauty we created in the midst of ugliness, by our will to rise above obstacles meant to destroy us. They want us to believe we cannot survive without their schools, their jobs, their loans, their validation. That is the greatest lie in human history. Long before their systems existed, we were building civilizations that influenced the world, developing math and science, creating architecture that still stands, governing societies with law, healing the body and spirit, trading across continents, and raising children in communities of love and protection. That wisdom, that genius, was never destroyed. It still lives within us, suppressed, exploited, but never erased. What must change now is how we see ourselves. We must stop letting others define our intelligence, our worth, or our future. We are not broken people needing charity. We are builders, thinkers, healers, organizers, capable of creating systems that reflect our values and serve our interests. The hard truth is this: no one is coming to save us. Not governments, not philanthropists, not international organizations. The cavalry is not on the way. The people who will liberate us are us, united, strategic, and relentless. The power has always been in our hands. Now we must choose to use it. That means educating our children with truth, not propaganda. Controlling our resources instead of letting others drain them. Telling our own stories through our own media. Building systems of justice that deliver real justice. Creating schools that train leaders, not employees. Developing healthcare that heals body, mind, and spirit. And above all, refusing to be fooled by symbols of progress while the structures of domination remain intact. They celebrate our pain but dismiss our solutions. They praise our resilience as long as it ends in submission. They applaud our achievements as long as they don't threaten their control. But we will change that narrative. The world must see what Black power looks like when it is unapologetic, self-determined, and unstoppable. We must honor our ancestors, not by repeating their pain, but by completing the mission they began. They dreamed of real freedom, not just freedom from chains, but freedom to shape our own destiny. They dreamed of sovereignty, unity, and power. That dream is now our responsibility. Not to wait for, but to build with our own hands, our own resources, and our own coordination. We are not burdens. We are the builders of every society we've touched. We are not outsiders begging for inclusion. We are the original people whose labor and genius shaped civilization itself. Everything they claimed we could not do, we have already done under conditions meant to destroy us. Now we must go further. Not symbolic, but structural. Not individual, but collective. We must stop asking for seats at tables designed to exclude us, and instead build our own systems, our own institutions, our own networks. Because the truth is simple, we don't need them. We need each other. History shows the pattern clearly. Every time black people unite across continents, global powers move to sabotage that unity. They did it to Garvey. They did it to the Panthers. They did it to Lumumba, to Malcolm, to every leader who dared to connect Africa with its diaspora. They know what we often forget. Our greatest threat to their system is our global unity. They have fed us lies to keep us divided, telling Africans that African Americans are lost, telling African Americans that Africa is hopeless, convincing Caribbean and black Europeans that their struggles are isolated. But the truth is undeniable. We are one people, stronger together than we will ever be apart. When Black America rises, the world takes notice. Civil rights, black power, hip-hop, all reshaped global culture. Imagine that power multiplied by the resources and sovereignty of Africa, combined with the visibility and influence of the diaspora. That is not fantasy. It is the most realistic path to liberation, if we choose it. The system thrives on our division. Unity dismantles it. Unity builds new economies, protects our communities, and reshapes the rules of power. The world is shifting. Old empires are falling, and the question is simple. Will we remain scattered, or will we unite and lead? Africa holds the land, resources, and sovereignty. Black America holds the visibility, networks, and economic power. Together, it is not just reunion, it is revolution. But it begins with us, building real partnerships, investing in each other, showing solidarity in struggle, and tearing down the mental walls that kept us apart. We are not strangers. We are one people, and the world fears that unity because they know it cannot be stopped. The moment we decide disconnection is no longer acceptable, the tide of history turns. It's time. The bridge is waiting. Cross it.